Welcome to the P.A.S. Report Weekly Roundup Podcast. The P.A.S. Report provides an honest analysis on the critical issues that matter to you without the biased media filters. Here's your host, Professor Nick Giordano.
My fault. All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. So tomorrow, both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump head to the Texas border to duke it out on America's current migrant crisis. The sad part is only one of them will know where he is. The other will think he's on a beach in Delaware during Cinco de Mayo. For Biden's part, this is only the second time he's been to the border during his presidency. The other time it was to pick up a package for Hunter marked baby powder. Of course, Trump has been to the border numerous times, and it's obvious why he's been talking about it for years. It just took forever for everyone else to catch up. The truth is that Trump, that terrible knuckle-dragging vulgarian who our chattering classes love to hate, has once again shown that he has the pulse of America far better than his opponent, who at this point may not have a pulse himself. I know. Too far or not far enough. Sure, Trump's a billionaire, but in the end, he's a guy who puts ketchup on his steaks. Joe puts ketchup on his pancakes, thinking they're steaks. Trump cared about the border before it was cool. Now Dems are copying him. I'm willing to bet Biden is going to show up in an orange wig with Stormy Daniels on his arm. But unlike the elites, Trump has known all along that the border is a big issue to most Americans, that an unending wave of migrants that are less vetted than a Harvard president isn't a dream, it's a nightmare. So as we gear up for the showdown at the southern border, Trump's got the home field advantage because he was there first when it was patriotic and not political. And who's pouncing now because it's political? Biden. For Joe and those propping him up, it took the death of a young woman before they were forced to book flights to El Paso. He's like all of us at harassment training, pretending to care. Meanwhile, the media accuses those who forced the issue of seizing.
Republicans obviously seizing on this horrific tragedy at the University of Georgia. They're seizing on this as an example of Biden's failure to protect the American people and to secure the border.
Riley's death igniting a political firestorm. State House Speaker John Burns indicating that the Georgia House this week will take steps on illegal immigration.
As if the initial facts were not horrifying enough or the sense of loss not deep enough by now, and all of it has now been compounded by the revelation the suspect was in this country unlawfully and how quickly that fact became politicized.
You're so solemn. Well, are we seizing? Damn right we are. Why aren't you seizing, Anderson? Still hungover from those shots on New Year's Eve? A young woman had her life stolen, and as the arrest paperwork shows, in the most brutal way possible, it shouldn't have happened. The story isn't that we're seizing on it, it's that the media misses it every time. The only way they react to the real news is if we shove it back into their faces, or in their words, seize, which is the new pounce. And when they use that term, it means, please stop, you're humiliating us. And that's worse for them than actually missing the story. And the stories like this keep coming. This week in Maryland, an illegal was busted in connection to the murder of a 2-year-old boy. Last month, an illegal shot at cops here in New York. And in Louisiana, an illegal Honduran man has been arrested for raping a 14-year-old at knife point. So I guess we better not seize on that. Remember how the AP said Laken Riley's murder was evidence of the dangers of running alone? Maybe that's how they'll cover these stories, too. That killing a child highlights the risk of having kids. A cop's murder highlights the benefits of defunding. Teen rape highlights the risk of puberty. It's all the same logic. It's trying to live in a free society that makes us at fault. So yeah, the Dems and the legacy media are on the ropes. Sure, you can all get together at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and laugh about Trump's hair, but don't you realize your day is done? The legacy media is like a former star high school quarterback who now sells shoes for a living. Except unlike Al Bundy, their glory days were never glorious to begin with. Today, those bastards no longer set the national agenda. You do. And like that crazy ex you keep going back to, Donald Trump always has. And it's not so much that today's border chaos shows that Trump was right all along. It shows that you, America, were right all along. No one ever voted for open borders, and neither party supports it. Trump was just willing to listen. Fact is, Biden's willful blindness on the border strikes most Americans as far more vulgar than anything Trump has said about anything. Now, if you remember, it was Trump who said back in 2016 that we have some bad hombres here and we're going to get them out. It was that the left was willing to pounce on because it was racist, xenophobic. It was also, it turns out, common sense. And like so many of his promises, he kept this one too by rounding up MS-13 members in Long Island. But the Dems still can't get over Trump's rhetoric and the oh-so-precious feelings of illegals. Here's the Lib mayor of Athens, Georgia, addressing Laken Riley's murder today.
I want to say that we center our work here in Athens, Clarke County, in people's humanity. And part of everybody's humanity is the expectation of human dignity. While 2019 was not that long ago, you might remember the dynamic we were living in the late teens in this country, where you had the President of the United States speaking in the most vile terms about people who were foreign born. And you had that notion metastasizing.
How do you say ass wipe in Spanish? Did the mayor forget he was there to focus on a young woman's heinous murder at the hands of someone who shouldn't have been here in the first place? And all he could do was focus on Trump's, quote, most vile terms not that long ago? You. Trump's words may not have always been elegantly phrased like that one, but he's honest, accurate, and relevant to the actual lives of Americans. And if the polls are any judge, Americans want the hombre who's been willing to seize all along, rather than the guy who needed bad polling numbers to finally wake him up from a drooling slumber. So as Hop-Along Joe limps into town Thursday to try to fix a crisis that he created and now blames on Republicans, it's no surprise that many Texans are saying, too little, too late. We need a new sheriff in town. And one with a 6-gun in his holster, not a melted soft serve. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He gets a standing O whenever he cancels a show. Actor, writer, and comedian Jamie Lissow. He knows free speech like I know a nude beach. Campus Reform Higher Education Fellow Nick Giordano. Raccoons complain she's been going through their trash. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Cat Timpf. And when he gives you a piece of his mind, it gets delivered on a forklift. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion Tyrus.
But it's big. I just raised the roof.
Jamie, always a pleasure to see you. And I mean it this time. I didn't write this question.
Okay.
Jamie, can you relate to Trump and Biden visiting the border to you visiting your kids who were taken away with everything else you had in life by your ex-wife, leaving you as a sad and broken comedian from Alaska?
Completely.
Yes.
Wow, that was right on the nose. Is it possible? Oh, did you, the last thing you showed where Biden was eating the ice cream? I was looking and I was like, I don't know if we can say definitively that that is ice cream because that's how they serve him all his food.
Yes.
That could have been like a bologna sandwich. I saw on a clip the other day, he said to somebody, he goes, hey, could I get an extra straw for my steak? And I hope when Trump becomes president, he builds the wall while Joe Biden is in Mexico. So Trump went to, just quickly on, like, pouncing on stories. You talk about things when tragedies happen. Like,
right.
That's why it comes up. It's not necessarily politicizing. And of course, Trump's been there before. Trump's going to Eagle Pass. Biden is going to Brownsville, which I have a feeling that every time Biden doesn't get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, he wakes up in Brownsville.
Yes. Nicely done. Shall we stop there? Yeah. Nick, I always love how whenever there is any kind of political issue, you'll hear a Democrat or a liberal say, we need to have a conversation. It's good that we have a conversation. But then when you actually have an opinion on a conversation, they accuse you of pouncing. You know?
Well, they try and turn the issue around. I mean, the media is soulless. That's what they've become. They're more angry with the fact that they got caught trying to sweep the murder under the rug. And now they have to report it's an illegal immigrant who shouldn't have been in this country than they are of the actual murder of an American. And it really shows you where this country has gone. We have political officials that have completely abandoned the American people. And they should be held accountable. Their policies are destroying the United States. Our adversaries get to sit back watching us implode. And I just wish that the former president tomorrow will actually just show up in Brownsville instead. At the same time Biden's there, they roll out 2 podiums and they just have a debate on illegal immigration right at the border. It would be a genius idea. Pay-per-view event.
That's an amazing idea, because if Biden refuses to debate, all Trump has to do is go to places that represent an issue, so he could go to a supermarket about inflation.
Well, he's great at trolling. He should do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it causes Joe to have to show up, and then they'll have to debate.
Yeah.
That's a great. I'm glad I thought of this. Thank you.
Brilliant.
I agree too. We'll clip everything you said out, and I'll pretend I said it. Kat, do you think the only reason why Biden is going is because Trump is going?
Yes. So I do have an analogy.
Yes.
So Biden is a guy who doesn't not really want to commit, doesn't really want to get married, and Trump is all of his girlfriend's friends, because all of his girlfriend's friends are getting married, and she can only be like a smiling bridesmaid at so many of those weddings before she goes crazy, right?
Yes.
Like the champagne toast tears are gonna be nothing compared to the snotting, sobbing meltdown in the hotel room after every single wedding. So eventually he has to propose, or he has to do like something. I know this is actually true. One guy was going through this, and so he gave his girlfriend an engagement bracelet to try to buy him some time. No, do you want to hear the worst part? She accepted it. She waited around more, and then they actually got married, and then, can you guys believe he cheated on her?
Engagement bracelet.
Yeah.
That's going to be a thing now. That's disgusting.
Well, if the story ended differently, Greg,
Yes.
it's an engagement bracelet, and then he got his money together, and he got me a beautiful ring. That's not what happened. They got married, he cheated, divorced, and she was stuck with a bracelet. It's probably not going to be. It's an impending doom gift, to be fair.
Do you think...
one impending doom fan in the crowd tonight. Thanks for coming, Def. Meet me when you finish the show.
Tyrus, what do you think Joe is going to do at the border, and what are the odds of him maybe not showing up?
What is Joe Biden going to do at the border? See, I'm not really good at impressions, but I got a pretty good idea. 3 things will happen. He'll walk the wrong way. He'll face the wrong side of the fence, because he will be standing in front of a fence.
Yes.
And it will be the cleanest, most beautiful brown. If I was a mayor of any city, I would rather have Biden coming to my city to speak on the border, because nothing's going to change after the speech, but it's going to be clean. It's going to be clean. It's going to be gorgeous. Trump's going to go down the road. There's going to be all these people and fans and supporters that show up, litter bugs, and there's balloons. It'll be confetti, and it'll be this magnificent thing, and it'll be the electric bill for the city's going to be off all the plugged-in cameras and people showing up, and he's actually going to be in an area which is heavily trafficked by illegal alien crossings, so there might even be some action. I'm willing to say he'll be up there and be like, there's one right now, right there, look there. Someone get a picture of him. When I get in, I'm getting you. It's going to be something like that, but again,
Another bad hombre.
Yeah,
Another bad hombre.
ever since Little Dude came on here, we're all Trump personalized now.
Yes.
But the ugly thing of it, and I'll make it quickly, is that conservatives aren't against people coming to this country. We're against people coming illegally. There's a word there. It's a magic word. Illegal. And invasion. That's the issue. Pouncing is new. There's always a new term. Pouncing is something cats used to do, the things they're going to eat. Now pouncing is from when one network decides to tell the real truth on something and the other network didn't want to. You're pouncing. You're picking stories. I don't even want to get into the horribleness of the story, but it's not pouncing. It's telling the news. And maybe if they got back to it, Anderson Cooper is supposed to be a newsman, but instead all we hear his opinions. Jake Tapper, who's someone I respected and would argue and make the newsman, I can't make that argument anymore because they're so busy. They're so bought into just say what you want to say. If this is the way we want our country to run. We break a few eggs, guys. We break a few eggs.
It's
the eggs are us American people.
I think CNN has invented what is called the CNN face. Have you ever noticed the CNN face is just a look of they told comics to skedaddle at a club in Seattle. Pretty good, huh? I speak of a comedy club that canceled upcoming performances of 4 comedians that apparently they deemed problematic, leaving Seattle residents furious because this gives them 4 fewer victims to rob. The list includes Louis Gomez and 3 guys you've seen on this very show: Kurt Metzger, Dave Smith, and Jim Florentine. So what exactly was the club's issue, besides the fact that their only pronouns are he, him, and his? An email sent to the comics cited discussions with local comedians in neighborhood groups and reads in part, quote, Capitol Hill is known for its progressive values, and we've received significant feedback expressing concerns about the alignment of these upcoming shows with the neighborhood's ethos. This feedback includes concerns from local advocacy groups that are deeply embedded in our community and work towards upholding its values. So they were concerned about aligning with their neighborhood ethos. And what neighborhood is that? Well, the club is located just around the corner from the former Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ, which I'm pretty certain is Latin for hellhole. Remember that communist paradise? It's the area where the violent activists took over during the summer of 2020, the summer of love. It was the site of multiple shootings, 2 deaths, arson, and alleged sexual assaults. Imagine the Gaza Strip, but with more human feces. It cost the city millions in damages. But yeah, thank God they're protecting that from unwoke comics. The only thing they'll assault is your precious feelings. So to sum it all up, these guys are banned because they're actually funny. And you can't have that in a woke environment where crime is preferable to comedy. They prefer criminals killing on the streets, not comedians killing on stage, which is why they wanted to get Jamie Lissow. But he was busy babysitting his kids because his ex-wife was on a date with a hotter-looking guy.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Cat, okay, I'm theorizing here that the clubs knew who they were hiring. They knew these people, so they canceled it, not because they found out about the comedians. They had to cancel because they were threatened, right? What's going on?
They just did these guys the biggest favor they could have ever possibly. If any of you even know who any of these people are, I can't imagine anything better for their careers than to get a cancellation happening to them. All right? I mean, Louis Gomez and Dave Smith, wait till the fans of their podcast, Legion of Skanks, find out that people think they're offensive.
Yes.
It's so absurd. And really, the buzzword there, more than anything, is local comedians. As in, people who go to open mics and are not successful and are very upset, not so much at the content of what these guys are saying, but at the fact that they are not as successful as they are.
Right.
So I think that's what so much of this stuff is rooted in. Okay, well, maybe if I can't become a nationally known comedian, I can take one down. But really what you did is you lifted them up.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. It was like the local comedians.
Of course.
What are they like, Tyrus?
Oh, I know exactly what they're like.
Same.
I know exactly what they're like. They come to the stage, and the first thing we have to do, everybody write their pronouns on a piece of paper. There's a pad and paper and a number 2 pencil with a special eraser in case you're triggered by rubber. Pass that to the front, and then we'll begin the show. Problem is that takes an hour and 45 minutes.
Yes.
Because they'll change the thing. Listen, I think the club. At first, I looked at this. I got pissed, and I actually wrote on Twitter. I fired on this until Jim Florentine and stuff said, "Do what I do," and I have a perfect example. Last weekend, I was in thank you, but not yet. Hold it steady. Last week, I was in Andover, Massachusetts, and I did a stand-up show, 1,500 seats sold out, and it was like 200 people wanted to come in standing. It was crazy. Because 40 miles away, a club in Boston said, well, our community is this thing. We're just not really sure Tyrus is a good fit. And the only thing I said was, find me the closest club close to it.
Yeah.
And we did that. And my advice to them was, do the same thing. Find a club, you 4 get together, because I book my own, no agent, nothing. My wife does it all for me. So, and I book wherever I want to. And they should do the same thing. And you get way more money anyways if you do it yourself, trust me. But they need to do that because the point is, let them have it. They suck. The only other thing I was going to say is the crime is so bad there. The club is already on its way, is going out of business because of woke comedians. Or are they telling the guys don't come because they're afraid of getting their burned down? That's the other side of it. That's why I never get mad at the club. I say, okay, cool, thank you. GPS me something close to them, just to make the point. So make the point, but it also could be that they're scared to do anything because there's no help from law enforcement, no help from the government, and they're bringing these 4 guys and they're getting threats. And this is they've been living in this. They live it every day. So maybe don't take it so personally. Be like, you know what? Maybe this was just a thing for all 4 of those guys, and every one of those guys could book an event and get people to come.
Yeah, well done. It is pretty interesting, Nicholas, that no comics torched a business or attacked a police station or rioted in the no-go zone, but they're the ones.
Well, this is why comedy isn't funny anymore. You have these comedy clubs that want to go woke. Nobody wants to pay for virtue signaling. Who needs to hear that? Just turn on the news or go into a college classroom. You could hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it used to be that conservatives were the uptight ones. But you look at the numbers now. A poll just came out today where 1/3 of Americans think that freedom of speech goes too far. And then if we look at the age group, 16 to 29, over 50% believe it goes too far. So they're the uptight ones. Comedy, you got to push the envelope. There is no boundaries. It's all about free speech. I grew up in the era of Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, George Carlin. I was 8 years old. You had to watch what your parents watched on TV back then. They didn't coddle you. You just watched it and that laughed. And that's what made it fun. Now we have you, we have Jamie, we have Chappelle. I mean, when we look at it...
In that order.
There's Tyrus, of course, and Pat. I mean, when you're looking at it, those that push the boundaries are the ones that win. Yeah. They're the ones that are funny. They're the ones that are bringing in the crowds. And hopefully this comedy club does go out of business because of it.
I think, Jamie, this is a perfect stunt for you.
Yeah.
The next time one of your shows gets canceled, which will probably be tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Say that it was over threats over your too hot to handle material.
Yeah, just yesterday they canceled the show and because no one was coming. I was like, the 5 of us are out of here. I just grouped myself with them. I was so upset when this story came out. I called the club and I go, could I work there? And I was so jealous, though. You're right, Kat. Kat is so, when I saw the story, all 4 of those guys are incredible comics. All 4 of those guys are hilarious. And if you are big with neighborhood groups and open micers, I guarantee you are not funny.
Yeah.
I guarantee you're not funny if you're a favorite of those guys. But when I saw this, I was so jealous because let's say their goal was that people don't hear this unwoke comedy. I know so many people that Googled and YouTubed all these guys today. They did the absolute opposite of what they wanted to do, and that makes me happy for all these guys. I think they did book a club down the road. I think it's the Tulsa Comedy Club. I was there maybe 4 weeks ago. It was sold out. Just massive Gutfeld fans and packed the place. So I'm happy for that comedy club where they're doing the right thing. And I'm done with all censorship of all kinds. I just did I did like a college. I said I'd never do these ever again. And it was like good money. So I got hired at this college. And before the show, this girl comes up and she goes, here's a list of the things you can't talk about. And I am not kidding. If you had dropped her list and my set list, they were the same. But I'm happy for these guys. It's not a big deal for them at all. Happy for them.
All right. Well, then I'm happy for you, Jamie.
Thanks, Greg.
Willy Wonka's magic turned out to be tragic. This chocolate factory was unsatisfactory. Outrage in Glasgow. Glasgow
Sounds good.
Okay, Scotland. Tonight, after families paid $44 a ticket to what they thought was going to be an out-of-this-world Willy Wonka experience. But it was anything but. Now, Willy Wonka's chocolate experience had billed itself as a fantasy like never before, where you can capture the enchantment. But trust me, when someone promises a fantasy like never before, don't you buy it. I'm still healing from Kudlow's slip and slide party. There was no slip and slide, just a jar of KY.
Okay.
Oh, yes. It was also supposed to be featuring an enchanted garden with giant sweets and vibrant blooms and magical surprises, which is the same language Kilmeade uses to get people into his van. They also promoted their imagination lab with mind-expanding projections and optical marvels and a twilight tunnel with enigmatic sounds in a dimly lit passage, which reminds me I'm overdue for a colonoscopy. But There was none of that. Instead, they got a dingy warehouse. Look at that. Looks more like a molester hideaway, not a chocolate factory.
Okay.
This place is so seedy, even Cat won't stay there for longer than 6 months. Seriously, look at that. That place isn't even suitable enough to house migrants. I've seen crack dens that have more ambiance. Just a few crappy props and absolutely no candy-coated magic whatsoever. And there's an anemic rainbow, some dime store wall art, a few candy canes and lollipops and some toadstools. Not an Oompa Loompa in sight. Well, except for this sad-looking, orange-faced little person. She's not even a little person. And what's she cooking, meth? I'm not sure. I don't think those are bonbons in those beakers. Anyway, the entire thing was shut down, and the company behind the candy con apologized and promised full refunds. But it was so bad, apparently, that these Scottish parents actually called the cops. I believe we have that 911 tape.
911, what's your emergency? Yeah, I'm at the Willy Wonka chocolate experience and it's absolute Where are the gobstoppers? There's no bloody gobstoppers. I'm freaking out. Sir, calm down. How can I stay calm when there's a complete lack of tail-tufted Oompa Loompas giving life lessons in the form of song? I paid £35 for this. I expect there to be a freaking elevator that goes sideways and slantways and longways and backways and squareways, sir, and frontways and any other ways I can think of. This isn't really a police matter. The chocolate river aren't even a wee bit edible. Pretty sure it's literal crap. These people should be behind bars. Wonka bars, maybe. You have some. Are they scrumdiddlyumptious? Please. It was a joke. Oh, piss off, you daft kid. Stop. Hey. Don't. Come back.
Nicholas, you have kids. Is there any lesson here for parents?
I wish I could have taken my kids today. I mean, the life lessons in this, for such a cheap price, you get to teach them about disappointment.
Yes.
That, you know, in life, expectations don't match reality, and they have to handle real-world situations. They also get the lesson on the buyer beware. So I look at the positivity of this as opposed to the negativity. And let's face it today, the parents, they coddle their children too much. We've all been to these horrible events that we have to bring our kids through. We have to suffer through it. So why can't we take our kids to an event where they have to be disappointed? I think this works all around.
Yes. Crush their innocence.
Exactly.
You know,
and I do have an experience with the Polar Express ride that I paid a lot of money for that didn't match expectations.
So the train show?
Yes.
I paid for that.
Yeah.
I was mad as sitting in that train. We had already read the book at home. I was like, yeah, my kids are having a good time because I raised them poor. So
this is stupid. That's what I got from my kids.
That's the thing, man. I'm going. I would have took my kids to this. They would have had a blast. Like, Daddy, look, rainbow. Go, run. Bring me. They would have tore it up. Like, go. Daddy's gonna go outside and smoke.
Doesn't it look like a really bad art museum?
No, it looks like events that we have to go to when I grew up poor and broke. We went to the fair, and then you went in and you paid the extra money to go see the headless cow that was jumping and frolicking in the poster. And it's in a jar. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The two-headed baby, the mermaid thing that clearly was so like we're just watching all this, and it was like they had one really huge. But by today's standards, she's not that big anymore. But back in the day, now she'd have to get two jobs. She got to be the big girl and the bearded lady. And it was a guy walking around who said he was the world's strongest man, but I was bigger than him. So I was like, I don't believe this guy. You know, and then you had a guy who was like, they lift up the curtain and they're like, look, crackhead.
Yes, they did.
Drooling, and unfortunately, Greg stayed around a little too long and went and investigated and saw the crackhead smoking cigarettes, which then led to why that monologue made so much sense. You got a lot out.
Yeah.
That was Greg's childhood in between the stuff, guys, all that stuff that was being said. So I hope that guy got, you can find that crazy man in
it was the Allentown County Fair sideshow, and they would have a guy who was, this is what happens when you're on drugs, and I caught him on a smoke break, and he was absolutely normal.
Did you ask for a refund?
Yes, it was $2.50. Jamie, you're used to disappointing children.
Yeah. I think you made a great point that kind of got missed a moment ago, that they could have just pretended this was a modern art exhibit.
Yes.
right? Because you can't mock
art.
You would just have to go like, oh, they should have changed it. And I'm with everyone else on the panel so far. I don't mind this at all because I judge every experience with my children as like, how long is this gonna take? Do you know what I mean? Like if we walk in somewhere and they go, I love it here, I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be hours. This, we're talking like a minute or less, we're gonna be in and out. And I would have just claimed if I was in charge of this, I would have been like, no, this is based on the Willy Wonka movie.
Yes.
The Tim Burton one.
They should have changed the movie and said, no, this is some other movie. Or they could have said, like, this is a medical exhibit. You're inside a giant stomach.
That's starving.
No, I disagree with everyone. I'm on these parents' side. First of all, this happened in Scotland. So if you like grow up in a culture where you have to put on a plaid skirt and stockings just to play your instrument, I feel like you might be a little sensitive to people not committing to the bit.
Your Twitter's going to be ugly tonight.
And then also, speaking of Twitter, I saw this video on Twitter that changed my mind. I think we have it. Can we pull this up? This is unbelievable.
What is that? It's the undog. What is that? It's the undog.
Makes chocolate and lives in the walls. Okay? So I see that, and I realized these people weren't just disappointed. They might have actually thought they were going to die.
Yeah.
Like, you buy something to a holographic experience, you're in this empty warehouse with, like, this thing that's coming out and lunging at your children. You're not gonna. I mean, this is like that was unnecessary.
They should turn this into like a movie that's so bad it's good.
They made it worse.
This could be a hit. The worst traveling show ever.
I believe the working actor described it as this is where dreams go to die.
Yeah. All right, we got to move on.
Thank you for listening to the P.A.S. Report Weekly Roundup Podcast.
Have a good one. Bye.
Be sure to rate, share, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Also, visit PASreport.com and follow us on Twitter at PAS Report.